You are so much more. MicDropClub.com. Make life boom.
With no further ado, let's roll. Hi everybody, it's Douglas Hamidishe for another episode of the Mic Drop Club takeover by the one and only MVA. They've taken over the Mic Drop Club to champion all things to do with volunteering in the Medway area and beyond. So today we are super excited. We have Keira in the house, who is a community accelerator, and wait for it, community accelerator at MVA with the Health Catalyst Program team. If there's a team in that, I'm sure there is. So let's give her a round of applause as I welcome her to the Mic Drop Club. Thank you very much. Keira, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm doing very well. Very, very well. The sun's shining, so I'm smiling. That's what I always say.
Oh, brilliant. And I will take that one as well. We take that as a win in the UK, yes. Most definitely.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so this conversation has been 2-3 days in the making. So this is our second attempt to have this conversation, and one that I'm very keen to find out more in terms of what do you do? What does your role actually entail as an accelerator, as well as a Health Catalyst Program team member? Wow. I might just say it. What does that all mean?
Say that 10 times fast, right? Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. So with my program, the Community Health Catalyst Program, it's comprised of 3 members. My colleague Alexandra, who is our project manager, the lovely Alexandra, my colleague Andrews, who is our community activator, and then myself, the community accelerator. So to put the program into kind of a bit of a nutshell, it essentially runs in 3 sections. So Andrews will first go out and find groups, local minority groups in Medway, but I also work in Swale and I represent Swale and Medway. And so he'll go out and he'll find minority groups that just are lacking representation in the Medway area. So these are groups like the homeless community, the LGBT group community, Black, Asian, minority, ethnic community, vulnerable migrants. So just really the people who are not being represented. And he'll go out and basically create a rapport with them, gain their trust, because that's what they need. They need someone to talk to. They're facing so many health, social, financial inequalities. And he just goes out, he gains their trust, he gets to know them. And that's kind of the first part of the program. The second part is where we do what's called a listening event. And this is where Andrews and Alexandra will go to these groups, and they have a series of questions asking the group what barriers they're facing in life, what barriers are they facing that's not leading them to live a happy and healthy life, things like that. Try to get their real responses, because we've built up this trust with people. So we're trying to get their real responses and capture that data. And then where I come in is with the reports that we create with everything that these groups are facing. I come in with funding, and we try to figure out activities that would help the group. And I just assist with the funding. And then after that is secured, I attend the sessions that we've agreed on, the activities we've agreed on, and I capture the outcomes from that. So, and the outcomes are in testimonials, photos, and just seeing genuinely how these people have been helped by the activities that we're providing. And then following that, I create case studies to send to the Health and Care Partnership, just try to really highlight how we help the community, how the community, just all the outcomes that they gained from these activities. And then going forward from that, there's further funding that I also aid in. And with the outcomes that I produce, it just helps the Health and Care Partnership see what's happening and where to allocate further funding. So that's essentially the program in kind of a nutshell.
No, brilliant. It's a rather expansive remit you have there. You have the freedom to explore and dive deeper. I was speaking to one of your colleagues the other day in terms of your unique approach in meeting people where they actually are,
Yeah.
and also debunking this whole myth that they are hard to reach groups.
Yes. Absolutely.
And the assertion was not to use that terminology, hard to use, hard to contact groups, because that's not the case. We have to meet them where they are at. They're not trying to be difficult. They're not trying to be hard. They just might be in a hard situation.
Yes. I think for our program, the way we kind of look at it is, and it's just a part of who we are as people as well, is that all of these people are just people. They're human beings, and they just need someone to talk to. They need someone to listen, because they face so much difficulty in their life that often people won't listen to them or pass them off as, say a drug addict or an alcoholic, someone who's homeless. These people didn't choose this. You never know someone's story. And that's kind of where we come in. We just want to listen to them and help them in whatever way we can.
No, that is a real heart rendering, heart melting sentiment, hearing people's stories and wanting to hear their stories. Too often the medical model to drive care, in the delivery of care, is built upon what is the problem, but not the story that wraps around the problem, challenge, or need that individual might have. So storytelling, I think, features heavily in what you are saying. Definitely,
100%. I would say, especially with my role in the project or the program, is really capturing people's stories with case studies and hearing how they were before we came in and started talking to them, and how they are after. And oftentimes it's a very happy result. And you're not going to fix everything, but if you can just help that tiny little bit.
Sure.
That's what it means.
So what is your approach when we're dealing with communities that are very vulnerable, where trust is so low in their expectation of people genuinely caring and wanting to help them?
Yes. So
tell their stories. Like, if I give you a use case, for example, that might be able to, and you can maybe draw upon real life experiences. Where you have somebody from a community that say they are not able to embrace their own skin, any one of the protected characteristics, should I say?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you get them to open up and tell a bigger story about themselves?
So that's where a lot of the engagement, the first step of the program really comes in, is that engagement, because we will be engaging with them for several weeks at a time and just keep popping back in the groups and saying, hey, I'm just a friendly face. I want to listen to you. It's all about building that rapport and relationship building to know that we actually do care. We actually do want to help. And sometimes you will get people who don't want to open up because of their past. And, that's perfectly acceptable, of course. And then other times I will definitely say my colleague Andrews is just so good at engaging with these people and gaining that trust. And our team is quite a diverse team as well. Like as you can probably tell, my accent doesn't come from around these parts. So we're all just a diverse team, and that diversity, I think, really aids in our process as well. But at the end of the day, the foundational aspect of it is just building trust through repeated sessions, through going back to them and just seeing how they're doing and being genuine about it. And I think people can see that we're genuine and that we care.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the vibe I'm certainly getting from yourself and the entire MVA team. Oh my God, I've never met a bunch of more genuine people. As soon as you walk in the office, just greet you with this warmth that just radiates throughout what you say and how you actually respond and engage. So you talked about genuineness. You talked about actually being interested in people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we look at, say, Maslow's hierarchy of needs for an individual, when we work up that triangle from food, clothing, shelter, security, all the way up to actualization.
Yeah.
You know, being actually present, warm, accommodating, genuinely interesting people is a characteristic that I think transcends any one of our protected characteristics.
Yes.
It speaks to your core values, right?
Yes.
It just happens you're just how it happens, the bonus that you all come from an eclectic background.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of this approach to engage, and you spoke of one of your colleagues that was particularly good at exchanging, you know, being able to create that safe environment for people to then have that conversation with them that's built around trust. Is there an element where people who volunteer or work within your service have to exchange their own stories with the people that they're trying to support in order to build that? Or are you saying that generally speaking, it's a listening exercise, it's a one directional feed, as it were?
I would say I can't speak for everyone. I will draw on my own experience and how I find is the best way to communicate with people, or the closest I've gone with certain people in the community is by sharing my own story. Specifically when it comes to volunteering and things, like I'm originally from Canada, and I moved here about 3 years ago for school. And, you know, my family isn't here. My friends aren't here. I faced so much social isolation that it really started to heavily mentally affect me. And it wasn't until I actually got back into the voluntary sector. I volunteer with the Scouting Association. And since I started doing that, my whole worldview just really changed. And just because I have that history with social isolation and certain mental health issues, and a lot of our groups, the common denominator does seem to be mental health. And when I start to speak about my own experiences, then they feel like they can trust me and speak about their own as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
And without having you delve deep into that, did it take you a long time to feel comfortable in sharing your own personal story for other people?
Honestly, no. During university and in Canada, I was actually a bartender for 5 years. So I think that has lent me the skills to talk to anybody from any walk of life. And I've heard so many stories I can't even begin to count, but it just comes very naturally to me to share myself with another human being.
Sure. And as you rightfully said, what you get out of it is so much greater than maybe the fear or apprehension in sharing that story.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It just makes you feel connected to someone. It could be a perfect stranger, and you just feel that connection.
Correct. We refer to that as the mutual exchange.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it does address the power dynamic that always takes place between those who want to give help and those who are the receivers of help.
Yes, absolutely.
There tends to be a power dynamic there, but being able to share those stories to one another I think it's a unifier. We all love a good story. And when we spoke earlier before we actually started recording, I was like, and you said, "Oh, I've got a story." I was like, I was ready. I was taken back to 4-year-old sitting on a cold floor in assembly, knock knees, waiting to hear a story. Just like waiting to hear a story. There's something magical about that. But in there also lies a challenge for a lot of voluntary organizations and wider in terms of how do you then quantify those stories to be something measurable so that you can actually measure progress, right?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you do that then in terms of this data? Now you've got data, got the story, the narrative, as it were. How do you crunch it down into like something that you can say as an outcome because, we know now where you are and where you need to go to.
Yeah.
How creative are your tools and how robust are they in able to demonstrate that the transformation?
Yeah. I would say a lot of it, because a lot of the groups we work with, a lot of it's drug dependency, alcohol dependency, homelessness. They don't feel particularly comfortable, say, getting on camera for an interview such as this or doing an audio recording. So a lot of it does come from them typing up their own answers. And a lot of it can be anonymous as well, which is perfectly fine. Because of the sensitive nature of the topics. But a lot of it's written, but ideally going forward, we're now entering year 3. I would like to capture those happier outcomes in a video format such as this, or say a recording or a podcast, what have you. So, it's a creative minefield that I'm still trying to figure out the best way to capture someone's progress.
Sure. Well, I guess with your intention, that puts you on the path already because you're inquisitive.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
You want to explore different. This is what I really like about the volunteering sector. The creativity is boundless. It's like, what do you want to do? Go out and meet the people where they are at.
Yes.
Too often people are constrained by their professional registration. Yeah. If you want to see me, I'm a nurse by background. If you want to see me, you have to meet me here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Unless I belong to a team that allows me to meet you there.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
It's that flexibility to me is awe inspiring. It's awe inspiring. So you also mentioned funding, because all of this good stuff, all this rich way of working, has to be financed somehow.
Yes. And ideally, in an ideal world, it wouldn't have to come down to that, but unfortunately, we're in the real world.
Sure. So do you have to produce like case studies or a use case to activate the purse strings to secure funding? And do you have to pitch to say, okay, this group needs X amount of money? What does that process actually look like?
So the funding that I deal with, there's 2 pots of funding that I deal with. One is called prescription funding, and that's the first one. And in order to gain that funding, we have to identify the problems that the groups are facing, and these will be in our listening reports. And then I come in and talk to the group organizers, the charity organizers, and say, this is the report, this is what we've identified. And then we kind of brainstorm together in thinking, what is a good activity that we could fund to ultimately help your group? So we've done things, as I said previously, mental health is a common denominator in all of the groups we've been dealing with. And physical and mental well-being is one of those highlighted things in our reports. So we funded things like yoga sessions or meditation sessions, just mental and physical well-being sessions in general, motivational speakers, things like that. So that comes from our listening reports, and that's a smaller pot of funding that MVA holds itself. And then in the second part of funding that I aid in is called community chest funding, and that's held by Kent Community Foundation, and that's upwards of £5,000. So it's a much larger pot of money. And I cannot personally do the bids for these organizations, but the processes to apply for this funding can be a bit rigorous or a bit daunting for groups that have not dealt with it before. So that's where I come in and I help in whichever way I can, but I can't do the bidding for them.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of the groups that you're supporting, give me an idea of the numbers if you've got them at hand.
Yes, actually, I just finished our year 2. I did a chapter for the report for the outcomes, and we have actually reached from the prescription funding alone, we have reached 483 beneficiaries since for year 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well done. You get what we call a mic drop for that one. That is extensive.
Thank you.
Atomic mic drop.
I know. I was so pleased when I was doing all the statistics on everything and looking at all of the case studies I've produced, looking at the number of beneficiaries for each one. The one that really stands out in my mind was for the Paramount Foundation, and we funded bike mechanics courses for their students to learn how to properly fix up bikes, and then they would sell them. And to date, they have sold 200 bikes from 4 people just learning this and
amazing
and doing this.
Oh
and
my God, yes,
it almost gives you shivers, kind of,
I am with you on that one. It's also been called the warm fuzzies.
The warm fuzzies, absolutely.
Absolutely. It just makes you feel rich and warmer and better for being a human.
Yeah.
You know, such good feedback, best practice, should I say. Are you able to rinse and repeat it across different client groups, or is everyone completely unique? Or are you creating everything from scratch every single time? Or do you have a playbook that says, okay, this community tends to work best with this type of support? Let's rinse and repeat it again.
No. So essentially it is each group we interact with. It might be similar things to what we funded before, but each group is unique to its own difficulties that they're facing, because again, these are their own individual people. They're all going to be feeling different things. And where I come in and brainstorm with the group organizers, charity organizers, is just to find the perfect activity that will truly help their group.
And Keira, within health, we have what's called a care plan, which is supposed to be the unifying document that binds the individual across health, care, social provisions, everything. We know that tends to not work. You get a care plan if you're in hospital, social services do their own plan of care, and so forth. They're all disconnected. Some of these interventions, because you're intervening to support, right?
Yep.
Do you feel that some of the ways that you're working do not easily translate, or do your client groups tell you that this has worked for me? For example, the bike project. It's working for me when I'm low in mood or I'm going through crisis. Doing this activity kind of helps me. Do you find that follows the individual throughout their own care experience with other services? Because I guess we're symbiotic to the bigger whole, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I would say that it does, because seeing the outcomes that I've witnessed thus far, it's so immense. And it's just, they do take it with them. And then ultimately we get these outcomes. I create the case studies. I send them to the healthcare partnership in order, hopefully, fingers crossed, to get them even more money to support them in the problems that they're facing.
So that's excellent. No, shivers are all around. they're all around. I'm a firm believer in outcomes.
Yes.
And the storytelling is a big part of that. But then again, at what point do you reach out for the outcome? I say this very in jest and as in a funny way.
Yeah.
I went to see my dentist the other day, totally unrelated to this, and I had some treatment on my wisdom tooth. As soon as I came out, I had to do the questionnaire because they wanted outcomes.
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously the pain is gone, even though I'm numbed up. Yeah. So I give everything top marks.
Yes. Yes.
The next day I'm feeling, this is still hurting. What's
yeah.
But I've already given the feedback.
You've already given it. So I was like, now I'm going to put it down a little bit, but I can't. I've already done it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's something there about timing
Yeah.
outcomes, and how flexible, what is your approach on getting the outcomes?
For me to get the outcomes, so for the sessions we provide, it does have to be several sessions ideally, because ideally I want to sit in on the very first session. Ideally, I want to sit in on the very last session, and a few sessions sprinkled in between here, because again, it's all about that trust as well. And people knowing my face, knowing who I am, and just that I just want to see the outcomes. I genuinely want to see how people are changing and evolving from when I first met them to how they are at the very end. Now, I captured this essentially just by going to the sessions, getting photos, getting testimonials. But at the end of the session, when they're finally finished, I will go back, say, a month later, 2 months later, to these people, see how they're doing. Are you still feeling this way? Are you still carrying this happiness from the sessions we provided? For example, we provided a local Ukrainian organization with therapy sessions, and the therapists spoke Ukrainian, so it's making them feel safer, but they're also able to speak in their native language and truly express themselves and how they're feeling. And I got an incredible case study from a lovely lady who just really highlighted the importance of these therapy sessions and being able to speak to someone in her own language, but also be around other Ukrainian people who also fled the country in these very turbulent times that they're facing. And, the rates of depression and anxiety and PTSD that they are facing, just by being together, it takes away that social isolation. But then speaking to a therapist then also aids with the mental turmoil they're going through. Yes. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And Medway, we have to big up Medway, because Medway has put themselves as being a safe sanctuary for refugees as well,
Yes.
which is something that we have to big up and salute. Their journey is traumatic, and, the war in Ukraine
Absolutely.
with Russia, these stories, they hit home and they hit home differently.
It does.
And the fact that you got a solution, or you got intervention, should I say, that meets that problem square on, and people can move forward. You're, I guess, in a very privileged situation where you are seeing transformation take place, because you see somebody on assessment, you put in the stages of support for the group, and then you come in and see the transformation. And more often than not, they're in far better position than they were when you found them.
Absolutely. There's not a day that goes by that I don't wake up with a smile on my face, ready to go into work and to try and make a change for people, because that's just my heart, that's my soul. And I am absolutely so privileged to be in this role that I am in, and seeing just the transformation, like you say, seeing this transformation within these people that you have now built up a relationship with, and you want to see the best for them, and to be able to help in that way it's indescribable, really.
Wow. You're getting greedy with mic drops, I swear. I think word has got around your office, But you get one anyway. You got to get one for that.
Thank you. Thank
you. That is my heart. That is my soul. So there's some, are you answering your calling being in this environment? Do you feel that you're answering your calling?
Absolutely.
And have you always been like that? And if so, absolutely, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, let me formulate it. Let me formulate what I want to say to you. At what point did you answer the calling? Did you have a mic drop moment in saying, I get it now?
I did.
And if so, what was it like? Was it a series of mic drops, or was it just a one moment? What happened?
So this is where my story gets a bit interesting. And I do have to do a bit of backstory on it. So I'll try not to waffle on too much. But back when I was in Canada, during COVID, I unfortunately got laid off from my job, as many people did. And during that time, so Canada has a lot of Native American people, Native Canadians, I like to say, because I'm a proud patriot Canadian. But I am Indigenous myself. And during that time, way back in the day, there's these schools that were set up called residential schools, where they took Indigenous kids from their families and put them into these schools to erase their whole Indigenous identity by they can't speak their language. They have to dress like white people. They have to celebrate Christianity like white people. And unfortunately, a few years back now, mass grave sites were unearthed throughout Canada of these children who unfortunately succumbed to that system. And it created this really big uproar of where Canada's very good at sweeping our Indigenous problems under the rug. And these problems are huge. It's huge across the nation, but they're so good at sweeping it under the rug that no one ever really knows. So when I heard that, my heart just broke. I mean, I knew all the injustices that were happening. High murder rates, the stereotyping, the racism. I saw it on my streets every single day, and you know, it's absolutely horrible. So I actually, during COVID, and I had all this time on my hands suddenly, I actually created a website or a blog dedicated to educating the Canadian public on Indigenous issues that are going on. So there's a massive problem with missing and murdered Indigenous women who will go missing, and you don't hear about it. But the rate of these women going missing compared to other ethnicities it's astounding, really, to look at it. So with my blog, I created and researched articles to write. I did biographies on famous Indigenous people, and I also created what was called the Indigenous Artists Initiative, where I networked with local Indigenous artists, whether it be songwriting, artwork, jewelry making, and I put it all on one comprehensive page on the site. Unfortunately, you couldn't do it in person because of COVID, but all one comprehensive page so people could access the site, see what people are selling, and support local Indigenous artists that way. So with all of that, it really just sang to my heart just to educate people, but also just help these communities become one.
Wow. Oh, that is powerful. That is most definitely powerful. Atomic mic drop, please.
Mic drop.
There's something in there you said about educating people.
Yeah.
About the past. As you were saying it, I started thinking about, are you really educating or you're re-educating?
Yeah.
Because I think that, to me, talks to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because there's this tendency that people have a history that there was taught to them. So they have got some background, but it needs to be retold because stories that are missing from the narrative. In Africa, there's a famous African proverb we have in regards to hunting.
Okay.
And it goes like this. Until the lion gets its chance to tell the tale of the hunt, the tale of the hunt to always glorify the hunter.
Wow, I love that.
You do?
Yeah,
okay.
I really love that.
Cool. Thank you. I wish I came up with it, but it's ancient. But it's so true, you know. So in re-educating people shouldn't be scared to revisit the past to ensure other voices, which were drowned out by the hunters, are told. And I guess that's the inherent trauma some of these groups that you reach out to have.
Absolutely.
Hence, they don't trust.
Yeah.
So you sharing that story with them, and hopefully you can share the, that blog. I'll be so interested to read that. Listen, if you can share that blog publicly, privately.
Yes, absolutely. It's sohkah.com, sohkah.com. And that is short for Sohkah-Tissawan, which is a Indigenous language Cree, and it means strength and endurance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Endurance, see? I'm learning. I'm here learning. Who knew? Who knew when we started this podcast in collaboration with the MVA, we'll have such rich conversations from people that are open and expansive in sharing their stories. And that to me is not only important, I think it should be mandated, because when I support people going through trauma and I encourage them to tell bigger stories, you can't encourage them to tell bigger stories until you fully understand the level of trauma that they're going through. Because some things are so deeply, deeply ingrained. So when you talked about meeting people, going to this investigative work, listening, social listening, I call it, social listening. You go in the social channels to listen. That then gives you a far better place to start off with an individual, where sometimes there's no clear point where you can say, like a chicken and egg situation, like where do you start to help somebody?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the drugs that the problem, or the drugs the coping strategy for a far deeper problem?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes whatever is presented to us as a problem, when you do your listening, you can actually now help them prioritize. If I do X, we have the strength to remove Y.
Yeah.
You know, no. So yeah, I love it. Do you have any nurses on board in your team?
No, I don't believe so.
You don't.
No.
Oh, interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So where MVA point to start, where MVA works with the ICB and other statutory organizations, do you fit in that mold yourself, or is that done by another team? And how do you work collaboratively?
That's a very good question, Douglas. I don't believe we fall into that.
Okay.
But I might have to come back to you on that.
No, that's fine. That's fine, because again, I wouldn't want your health catalyst program to work in silos, because some of the biggest issues that we have is siloed working.
Okay.
And I think you have answered that already in terms of the data that you capture. You do pass it up the chain or to the side of the organizations.
Gotcha. Yes.
Yeah. You're already doing that. So I just wanted to find out when we sit at a strategic boardroom level discussion, how loud, how vocal is the MVA voice at that table where money is being decided and resources being, debated?
Yes. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, that is at a level much higher than what my role personally is. So I don't think I could give you an accurate answer on that. But just to be completely transparent.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And it's important that we have that conversation. Like, from every person who works in MVA, they will have a different role and different parameters that they work in accordance to. So you're right there at the coalface, and you mirror what I do as a nurse. I don't get involved in some of these, like in my nursing hat on, strategic discussions. I'm there, foot
you're
soldier.
On the front line.
I'm on the front line.
You're out there. You're in the field. See, that's kind of where I fall into as well. I'm more in the field, out there. Yeah.
And I made a conscious decision. That's where I wanted to be as well.
Yeah. And what led you to choosing that?
I think it's because I believe I can affect better. Meaning the quality of what I do. If I'm closer to the source, it's less tarnished. It's more me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
It's the closer I am to it. If somebody tells me to go and do this or do that, or it has a different. The motivators are different, because I make a conscious effort to remain. I can operate at a far higher level with my nursing hat on. As a nurse, I can operate much higher. So I do operate in different strategic positions as well. But I'll maintain my registration because I genuinely love what I do.
Yeah.
I genuinely love the transformation. When I sit down with somebody and we're going through, identify you. Okay, how can I help you?
Yeah.
I don't need any help. Okay, that's fine. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I can hold the silence, and they know I can hold the silence. And I can embrace the silence.
Yeah.
I can hug the silence. That might be the first time an individual's had the space to actually think about a problem, challenge, or need. It might be the first time anyone's even asked them. With genuine motivation that I actually wanted to find out. And I'm going to sit here and do nothing, and that's still okay. Yeah. And I'm confident enough to go back to my colleagues and say, as an outcome, we've agreed to meet this time again next week.
Yeah. And I can see your passion just exuding from you. And that's a really beautiful thing. And that's what I love. To circle it back kind of onto volunteering. That's what I love about volunteering, because you see the passion behind people, the passion, the sense of purpose they have for uniting their community and helping these people. And it's having a personality such as yours that really ignites the heart.
I've got a wide screen here, and that's to accommodate their head when I get praised.
I love it.
No. It's taken me a long time to accept my calling, as I believe it took me a long time. It's not something. So I salute anyone who knew that path younger than I did. I had to go from my own trials, own tribulations. But it's the itch that you cannot scratch.
Yeah.
It's always, no matter what I was doing in life, I knew what I should be doing. But sometimes you get so busy with life that you ignore that voice, until that voice becomes so loud.
Yes.
That, you just have to.
You can't ignore it anymore.
No, you can't. It's just it moves from the back of the head to the front.
Yeah.
The next,
absolutely.
You're doing that. And I think that is the mutual exchange we're having here between what we do at the Mic Drop Club. Again, is volunteering. The reason why we started the Mic Drop Club many moons ago, just to give some history. I know you're pressed for time. If you might allow me a couple more minutes.
Yeah, no, of course.
I was supporting young individuals in the community, and a lot of them come from marginalized communities, single parent homes, drug-induced psychosis, all the factors that can go against you, they had. And we're talking about mic drop moments, like, and then they were quoting different people who have said famous things. I said, okay, let's stop. Let's just stop for a second. What is your mic drop moment? Let's redefine. Let's take back the word to mean our own aha moments, our own moments of clarity, our own moment of truth. The day you really realized to leave an abusive relationship, the day you decided to stop taking drugs, the day, that's your mic drop moment. And we named it for that. So on this channel, we just share these stories with the view that someone's mic drop moment might not make it to the news feed, as it were, or be popularized. But if somebody heard it and can resonate with it, you can change lives, because some people say, that also is me. That you're speaking to an experience that either saw, heard about, or understand.
Absolutely.
And I can make changes. So that's what we do here. And you've been so great on this show. So I know there's going to be a part 2 coming.
Oh, yes.
I know there is. I can feel it. I can feel it. So before we wrap up, Keira, any call to action for people to, volunteer in terms of what they'll get out of it, and how can they get hold of you?
Volunteering is, to me, one of the absolute best things you can do, not only for your community, but for yourself, because the physical and mental impacts that it has on you is palpable. The skills that you learn is incredible. Leadership, communication, definitely communication, gives you a sense of purpose, gives you social connections, it's just one of the most heartwarming things you can do. And to know that you're helping out someone else. And again, you don't know people's stories. You don't know what people are going through. And you don't know if that person really needed to see you that day. For me, one of the things that I try to practice in my own personal life is when I'm walking down the street and I see a beautiful dog, I'll comment, "Oh, your dog is so beautiful." Or if I see a beautiful woman with such a pretty dress on, "I love your outfit. That's gorgeous." And the British society tends to be a little more closed off than my very outgoing Canadian persona. But you never know when someone might need to hear that, when that actually makes someone's day. Because I've had someone do it to me when I was on the lowest of low days, and someone just saying, "Oh, wow, you look really pretty. Your hair looks great. I love your nails." And just that one comment, just a really small comment, just changes your day. And it costs nothing to be kind. And in the voluntary sector, the altruism that follows it, like altruism is the foundation of humanity. I really do think. And to be in the voluntary sector, we're speaking to the foundation of our human souls. I really do think so.
Wow.
Okay, guys, everybody
Can't
ready?
really follow that up.
Atomic
Only for round 2.
Round 2. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Keira, it's been fantastic. It's been a well-traveled journey. And I
Yes.
feel that we've connected, and I'm sure your story will resonate well with the audience and beyond. Thank you very much for
Thank
spending
you.
your time. And Keira, until round 2, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Douglas. It was a pleasure to be here and to talk with you today.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out micdropclub.com and get the show notes and useful links. Subscribe to the podcast. Don't just live life, make life boom.